So thank you for having us. Thank you for spending the day with IBM. I know my colleagues and I are very excited to be here. I think there's a terrific lineup of speakers and topics, a lot of interesting subjects you'll cover today. But in fairness, looking at the agenda, I feel a little bit like I'm the sketch on Sesame Street, that one of these things is not like the others. Because there's all these great scientists and technologists. What's a lawyer doing in the middle of all this? And first, let me be very clear, I'm not here to lure you all over to the dark side. I know we need scientists, we need engineers. There's such an important role in society that you can contribute to. But I do want to make the point that you may have heard the phrase, it takes a village. And that's often done in the context of raising a child. You know, maybe your mother and father both were very helpful in getting you here. Maybe a grandparent took an interest, a teacher, a neighbor. It really, again, it takes a village. We're shaped and we get opportunities and we grow by being exposed to people in a lot of different areas. And I would have to say in engineering as well, it takes a village, not just to create the ideas, but to bring them out into the world and share them with society and get them out so people can use them and enjoy them and share them. And my team, my legal team at IBM, we're small but feisty, and we're happy to be part of this village that's taking these ideas out into the world. Now, our village, IBM, is almost 400,000 people, so our village is about the size of Cleveland. And on top of that, we have a larger ecosystem and the like. But what I would like to do today is just to give you a flavor for the kinds of ways that engineers might interact with lawyers, how my team can help to take these ideas into the world. And what I'd really be interested in doing is hearing your thoughts and hearing your questions so I can best address them and we can learn and all grow from today's experience. But I do know from speaking with groups all over the world, it's not really fair to parachute in and say, okay, I'm here, ask me some questions. So I prepared just a few charts. There's no quiz, there's no homework, but I just tried to identify a few areas, nothing exhaustive, but just a few ideas to get you thinking about the different ways that engineering might interact with law and public policy to, again, to bring these ideas out into the world. It gives you a little flavor for what the people on my team will do, and the lawyers that you'll work with elsewhere to help you develop and, if you will, socialize some of your breakthroughs. I'd have to say, I've been practicing law for almost 30 years now. I was originally an engineer. I have degrees in engineering and applied math. But one of the things that I think is neat about law is you can come from any kind of background, and you get to work with all different kinds of people. In fact, two of the best lawyers I know who have worked on some of these tough technical issues, one was a philosophy major and one was an English major. When I look around my senior team at the most senior lawyers at the IBM Corporation, of course I have English majors, political science majors, econ majors, but I also have a former math major and a former computer scientist. So this is, again, an area where you can come with any and all different kinds of backgrounds and make a contribution. So let me dive in and just give you a flavor for some of the things that lawyers do at a place like IBM. And I'd be very remiss not to start out by talking about intellectual property. I was very pleased to hear the kickoff this morning on patents. There are not a lot of communities I go to where you start by talking about patents, but it's something that we're very excited about at IBM. First, not everyone may know what intellectual property is, so let me just give a real brief primer. You probably know what real property is, right? Maybe you own a bicycle or a car or all the stuff that's filling up your dorm room. You might not be happy if someone just took it or said, that's mine, that's not yours. You can't use that, that's mine. Well, what about these ideas that are created in quantum or in blockchain or in cyber? If you come up with an idea, what happens when someone else says, well, no, that's mine, you can't use that? How do we protect these ideas, the intellectual property that's generated at a place like IBM or at UMBC or any of these places around the world? I have a whole team devoted to working with scientists and engineers and research labs around the world to patent their ideas, to help again, protect the ideas. There's different kinds of intellectual property. Maybe you've written a book or some a computer program or a song. You might copyright your writings there. Maybe it's such a breakthrough, you want to keep it secret, you want to hide it, and we'll treat it as a trade secret. But an important way we protect ideas is the creation of patents. And the thing about a patent is you publish the ideas in it, and the trade-off is you then get protection for it. So you get to both use it and share it at the same time. IBM, we were very proud. In January, we were recognized for having the most patents issued by the US Patent Office for the 25th year in a row. That's a remarkable achievement. Last year alone, we got over 9,000 patents. Over the past 25 years, we've gotten over 100,000 patents. These are inventors working around the world developing this stuff, and the legal team touches all of those. So we work, again, with our teams to help protect those ideas. We also help our business to monetize those ideas. Okay, you want to share the patents. What do we want to do? Do we want to put it into the open community? Do we want to license the patent? Do we want to sell the patent? So my team works with our business teams and the developers on that as well. And policy, we're very active in the policy space on patenting because it's so important, the notion of protecting intellectual property. So we work with Congress. So for example, when the America Invents Act went into effect, we had been, again, very active promoting that. We work with patent offices around the world, not just the US Patent Office, not too far from here in Alexandria, but for example, two of my senior lawyers this week were in Japan, working with the Japan Patent Office, and we also interact with the courts to help to develop the law as how some intellectual property law is interpreted. Just to give you a little flavor, some of the areas we've been patenting in recently won't surprise you: quantum computing and blockchain, a couple of the topics that you'll hear about. Now, the fact that these patents were issued, that means we applied for them close to 3 years ago. So we really are on the cutting edge working with these teams globally. And again, it's a very active part of what we do. We have patent lawyers who do it, but also people who are patent agents. So these are people who have technical degrees. When you have a technical degree in a number of areas, you can actually take the patent bar and practice before the patent office, even without going to law school or having a law degree. So these are very important ways, again, that people with technical backgrounds can help contribute to the corporation as a whole. We also then work with how do you then take these ideas out and put them into products and services that are going to then help our clients. Our clients can be better at what they do because they can use the breakthroughs of blockchain or quantum or some of these other things that you're going to hear about. Well, the legal team works with our business guys on that as well. So an easy example, I'm almost embarrassed to use it, but you know when you point and click and you buy something from the internet, maybe there's terms and conditions that come up, the small print. We do that, okay? We try to make it easy and simple and always try to shorten it. But when you're buying stuff like that, who owns these rights? Can we use your data? When you have a license from us, can you share it? How can you use it? Can you take some of our code and put it into something else? All those terms and conditions reflected in those contracting arrangements. Again, the legal team helps work with the business and the scientists to figure out what do we want to put out there into the public domain, who should own what. And you're seeing a lot of that play out now. For example, I won't mention other companies' names, but a CEO is going to be testifying before Congress pretty soon, talking about what their company may or may not have done with data and how did it compare with what promises were made to people who used it. So again, lawyers are all plugged into that. Not all of our contractor arrangements are, point and click. We may work with a company and get together and say, we're going to run your internal infrastructure for 10 years, and it'll be a massive project, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars over time. We're going to write contracts. Those could fill a box, right? So that's a lot of going back and forth. Who's going to own what? Who's going to have what rights? And when we're thinking about taking these ideas out and selling them into the market, then you're also running into, again, some of these policy issues. Okay, there's an embargo or sanctions now related to Crimea. What does that affect where we can put things out into the domain? We do work in Venezuela. Can we continue to work there? Can you get dollars in or out of there? Obviously, you're probably reading this past week or two over trade issues and tariffs. Well, we've already gone through those materials, the Legal and Government Affairs team that I own, looking at how does this affect what we're sending out, what we're taking in. If we're going to send something to a country, can we? What are the export control rules and regulations? So it's all this intersection of the technology with the public policy and the regulations, and also the contractual arrangements. We work on that. We also, in addition to doing contracts between, let's say, just us and our clients, sometimes you see companies buy and sell each other, and maybe you want to go work for a startup to create something that's going to get bought by a company like IBM. We buy dozens of companies. We develop. Obviously, we do our own creation, our own development, but maybe there's something in an adjacent space or an interesting idea that we think would add value as part of our overall ecosystem. So my team would work, again, with the business leaders if we're deciding to, again, buy or sell a larger business. And there, again, we're dealing with regulatory issues. So you'll deal with competition authorities. So you'll have to understand the transactions and the rules, so you're figuring out, and you can say, no, this is going to give more opportunities in the marketplace. This isn't going to affect pricing. This is going to create more opportunities in the ecosystem. Or maybe you've seen in the papers recently, there's some interest potentially in changing the rules on that relate to CFIUS, the Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S., as to whether companies can buy or rather sell certain technologies to foreign corporations who want to invest here. So my team helps interact at all those different intersections. Joint ventures, another way we may choose to go to market. So I think you're going to hear today about blockchain. We're doing a lot of work with AP Møller-Mærsk, a big, great company out in Denmark. We have a lot of intellectual properties and experience and ideas. So do they. So do we buy from them? Do they buy from us? Why don't we go to market together so we can use our blockchain technology and their experience in how shipping and the overall logistics process works, and bring together to, again, take the technology so it's not just hidden in labs, so it can get out into the world. So that's another thing that my team would work on. We then, when you're getting into these new areas, like think about Watson, cognitive computing, a computer that gets, if I will, smarter over time. Let's say that's reading a bunch of medical literature, right? You may hear about Watson for oncology or some of our applications. Is the computer practicing medicine? Is it a drug or delivery device? Is it regulated by the FDA? Should it be? What about in other countries? What about in Peru or Japan? All these ideas about dealing with technology no one's seen before. How do you fit it into the regulatory framework? How do you change the law and regulations to help, again, bring this technology, these ideas into the world? We work on all of those. We also deal with litigation. Oftentimes, people then think about lawyers as being in lawsuits and fighting with the other side. I actually was a trial lawyer before I came in-house and started to work for IBM. When I was outside and I was a trial lawyer, I said, this is a great job. It's a big game and we're getting paid to play it. And now, from the inside, I say, that's a very expensive game. I'm paying all these guys to do this fighting for me. So I'd much rather resolve things short of litigation, but things don't always work out. So as much as you try, I might end up in lawsuits over intellectual property. Who owns this? Have I infringed on your stuff? Have you infringed on mine? I do a contract with you. Maybe it doesn't work out quite so well as we anticipated. So we don't like to have our lawyers spend a lot of time in litigation, but we have to be ready to do it. So that's another of the things that we do. And integrity and compliance is a very important issue for us. You may not think about that day to day. We're operating, here you're at UMBC, operating in the US, the rules of law apply. We operate in a lot of tough neighborhoods around the world. We operate in more than 175 countries around the world. You can't use the court system in all of them as a practical matter. What happens if one of your guys gets shaken down at the border, or you can only do business if there's a bribe? Well, then we can't do business there. And it's tough, and you have to say, no, we can't do it. but it's critically important to us to be doing business with integrity around the world. That's part of who we are. We think it's what I tell my team is our most important role is to protect the brand and the reputation of IBM, because that's been built up over more than 100 years. It'll last a lot longer than we will. And again, that's the most important thing that I can invest in, the brand, the reputation, the integrity of the company. So again, this is just designed to give you a little flavor for the kinds of things we do. Maybe it's things you already knew about, maybe things you hadn't given thought to before. But I'm happy to try to answer any questions you might have at, again, how technology and law and public policy all interact. Nice.
Yeah, thank you for the insight that you provided. I had a quick question on artificial intelligence and how it's going to be used by businesses to, process the huge amount of customer data, consumer data that they have. There has been some apprehension based on that, and the regulators are coming in. So there is this concern within the IT folks that potentially there could be regulation on how artificial intelligence is deployed by the businesses. What has your experience been on that?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, and you're seeing that in the newspapers and the like, right? These ideas come out, people maybe are a little afraid of it, new ideas. Think about, well, what about when the car first came out and we shifted over from horse-drawn carriages and the like? People maybe aren't ready for it, and I would say one of our responsibilities as a company is not only to create the ideas in artificial intelligence and the like, but also to prepare society for it. So we are very focused on, for example, education and training and getting out so people understand what it is. We view, if you will, AI much more as augmented intelligence. It's going to be a system of man with machine, not man or machine. And again, I think when people understand better what the technology is, what it can and can't do, then we can work together to, again, enable our society to use it and not to be so afraid of it. So the education, the interaction, the being part of the process, again, so we're not just developing the ideas, we're preparing the world to absorb it. Very, very important part of what we do. So thank you for that.
My name is Raju. The question, I would like to have your comment. It's not a question, just. Recently, there is a huge amount of data leakage and information compromise from both commercial, government. So public confidence on the information providing to you is completely eroding, right? And I heard people not giving the right name to the Facebook, or people trying to evade the information. So what is your thought process in either regulatory or compliancy controls that we need to put it in so that the commercial and government agency are put process and procedure to compliancy of the data, right? So we have confidence in the system so that people can give the information, proper information.
No, that's a great question. It's a great topic. And really the issue of data and privacy and security. For a while now, we've created the technology. So we were talking earlier this morning about really the creation of the internet. I remember when we didn't have it, right? Some of you do as well. And then things got built up, and you see more and more people putting out information, sharing information, maybe without even thinking about how long it would last or how it would be used. And now you see over time the growth of cybersecurity incidents and people that are looking, how do I go and attack and use this information and the like, and put your data at risk? And I think that those issues are becoming, particularly the risks of it, are becoming now understood more in a way that people might not have appreciated it before. And I do think we are likely to end up with some more of a regulatory framework of how do you balance these issues of security and privacy? Because on the one hand, there's a benefit to sharing information. On the other hand, there's risk from it as well. I think I hope you're gonna see more over time encryption of data. My understanding is really it's only something like 4% of the world's data that's encrypted. That makes it pretty risky. When people then steal information, they can go run off with it. So really this is, I think, some of the cutting edge work we're doing on cyber, on, again, encrypting, protecting data, finding different ways that how do we get the benefits of what's in the information and share it, but without, with reducing some more of the risk. But these are critical issues for us to be looking at. And again, fundamentally, I think it's going to have to be a balance.
Alan Sherman, Computer Science. How has the Alice ruling affected your work?
That's very fair. It has affected my work. It's hard, let me give you like an oversimplification, which I can attack, but just for a framework. Sometimes it's better to have a clear rule, whatever the rule is. And in some sense, this has kind of mucked things up a bit in terms of what is protectable intellectual property. Alice rule is, yeah, Alice, it's a decision that came out from the Supreme Court a few years ago, and it affects, today, is something really a patentable idea, right? Is there enough novelty? Is there enough of a breakthrough? Is it, again, is it something that's really a patentable subject matter? What I would say is our patents are still good, and our patents are being held up, not like a bank stick up, but if there's a challenge to it, our patents, when they're challenged, again, are still very strong, and the claims are being upheld. But I think that there was a proliferation of what's kind of known as patent trolls, where people might have essentially garbage intellectual property. They do get a patent for it, and then they go to a company and say, hey, pay up. I'm going to sue you if you don't pay up. And oftentimes companies have paid up regardless because it's cheaper than going through and fighting it, and the risks are too high if you don't. And I think that because there were so many bad patents out there, the pendulum swung the other way to make it easier to attack those. Against that background, I would say, given now that there's more routes to attack it and challenge patents, I think we're seeing an impact on the value in the external marketplace on patents, because it may be, boy, this is obvious, I have a read on you, you should pay up. And the feedback would be, well, first I'm going to take it, I'm going to seek review in the patent office, and I'm going to fight it in litigation, and maybe 3 years from now it will or won't be here. But it's, again, I think it's decreasing the monetary value in the states just because, again, it's as part of that, and some of the blowbacks from the American Invent Acts together have, again, made it easier to attack patents, and then, again, affects their monetary value. That's my take on it.
Good morning. Dipta Chakravarti. I'm an UMBC alum, also an IBM alum. Very simple question for you. Is data patentable? Because methods are patentable, systems are patentable, code has been patentable for the last 30 years. Is data patentable, yes or no?
Okay. My personal, I don't pretend to represent the IBM company on this. My view is data is data. It wouldn't be patentable. But I know, again, sometimes people use shorthand or they're thinking about it in larger terms. Data, well, what I really mean is all this work that's done to clarify, to simplify, to get to this nucleus data. But my simple take is numbers have been around for a long time and no one owns them. So, okay. I got probably time for one more if there's.
Yeah, I think I'm going to ask the last question, unless somebody's dying. Thank you very much for being here, first of all. So I'm curious, as you look 10 years ahead, your team, as you're dealing with a lot of the issues that you talked about and then the audience asked you about, do you see sort of structurally your team changing its focus because of the policy implications, because of the vast amount of data that you now have responsibility for? I don't know, I was just curious.
No, it's a great question, and honestly, it's something I think about a lot. Because again, we're thinking about the long term, right? We're a 107-year-old technology company, and honestly, the things we do in 10 years won't be the things we're doing now. They weren't the things we were doing 10 years ago. And honestly, 2 years out, or 3 years out, or 5 years out, things are changing so rapidly. So it's something that I'm always thinking about in terms of who we're hiring and how we're training. I need people who are going to be continually learning and be ready to take on new challenges. So for example, when I get people with, let's say, a technical background, boy, if they can do technical issues and they can do a patent suit, and if they can do a patent suit, they can do a complex commercial suit, and they can handle other issues. When we went into Watson Health, for example, we didn't have a bunch of healthcare lawyers, but I had people who were interested and had, again, an ability to learn new things. And we've trained up people in entirely different areas. We've hired some new folks. But I'm really thinking when I bring on someone, how are they going to help the company grow over time? Because the one thing I know is the things that they're doing 10 years from now aren't going to be what they're doing now. Okay?
So much.
Thanks
And
very much for
we're
your
very
time.
much multidisciplinary here, so we hope to place some of our students in your
Terrific.
workforce.
Thank you very much.